name of the show is The Way to Go. My name is Alan Bendich. I'm going to be your host. Tonight's guest is Sir Vincent Lyn. Welcome to the show.
Alan, pleasure.
Great. So we've had, we've had conversations about, your successes and, how difficult. I mean, it's hard to say success, but your efforts to help children throughout
Yes.
the world, and you've had some success. You've
Had a lot, yes.
But I guess, my question is, do all rescues that you do, rescue missions, are they always successful, or are there times when could you share a time that
they're not
bad?
They're not always. We plan 3-4 months ahead of time, assessing the situation, assessing the country that we are going to go to, knowing how many children possibly there are to rescue, logistics, weather, are we going to come up against any kind of threat in terms of armed threat, what kind of conflict are we going to be involved with. There's months of planning that goes into this, and so.
And again, I'm sorry to interrupt,
Yes.
but the planning we're talking about, because of course I didn't lead into it,
Right.
is saving children, right?
That's bottom line.
That's the part I left out before.
No. The bottom line is saving children.
Right.
Yes.
So I'm sorry to interrupt.
And that is my main focus, obviously, saving children.
Right.
So, obviously, for example, we had planned a mission in West Africa, and we, through certain assessment, we had found that there was supposed to be 20 children, plus or minus a few. We weren't sure exactly, but it was around 20 children. And it was in a small village or hamlet. And these famous, I'm sure most of the audience have watched Nat Geo, National Geographic, and see these kind of conical shaped houses, thatched roofs and so forth. So a village like this. And there were over probably 200 families living in this hamlet. So it was quite big. And usually we have a team of 6 people, and each have expertise in different areas. Obviously there's the one who's medical triage, first responder, and we have one who's in intelligence, another who's, in small weapons and tactics. So again, it depends what country we're going in and what the geopolitical stance is at that time. So we knew that we were going to come up against some type of kind of paramilitary threat. Obviously, we didn't realize just how bad it was going to be. We thought maybe 2 or 3 people, and it wasn't that at all. And so the also downside, and again, was our team. 2 members came down with tropical disease, and they had malaria and a bunch of other things. So they weren't in no shape to go. So we just decided, okay, with all the assessment and all the planning, we decided to go in anyway. And so there were only 4 of us. So as we approached the village, or the outskirts of the village, we decided to go 2 and 2. And so we split in 2 different directions, me and my partner, we went in the west direction, and then the other 2 went in the easterly direction. So as we entered the village and started walking through, we started noticing, smoke rising, and then we were hearing sporadic gunfire going on. And then the terrible smell, and obviously the smell of burning bodies. So we came across many bodies that were lying just shot or had been, hacked up. And then I heard screaming, and we entered this hut, and there were piles of children just laying, blood soaked, and there was a man holding a young girl. She probably was 8 or 9 years old, and had a machete to her throat. So we obviously had guns drawn on him, and I motioned to my partner. I said, "Look, we put the guns down." I said, "Put your weapons down." And so I was talking to him, but of course my partner is translating in local language, and saying, "Look, put the weapon down, put the knife down. We can talk about this." I said, "Awful things have happened, but let's just talk, So I'm pleading with in a way, kind of pleading with him. And of course, no matter what I said, it really didn't make any difference. And he just, severed the girl's head. And partner, we picked up our guns, and we had to shoot him. And at that same time, one of the other team members from the other side had rushed in, and he had grabbed 2 girls with him. And they, of course, upon seeing and witnessing what was inside that hut, they just were screaming, and so it was very chaotic, and I said, "Look, take them out, get them outside." But at the same time, because of all this was going on, I didn't even think of asking him, "Well, where's our other member?" Because my head was just, it was a mess, yeah. And I heard this sound. It was like a whimpering. It was like a small puppy dog was whimpering. And I told everybody, "Shh," to be quiet. And the sound, then I could hear the sound. So we started moving the bodies, and there was a small boy underneath. And so I picked him up, and I was holding him, and I couldn't even tell where he wasn't bleeding from, I didn't know if it was blood from other people or what. And he looked in my eyes, and I just held him, and of course and all he kept saying was, "Thank you." And I said, again, this translation going back, I said, no, you don't have to thank me. I said, "I'm here, you're going to be okay, you're going to be okay." And he kept saying, "Thank you, thank you." And he died there in my arms. So yeah, it was, and it just, the whole afternoon just got worse and worse and worse, as if it could get any worse. And I then realized, well, where's the other team member? The other team member got killed. And so at that point, we started arguing between us. Maybe now is a good time to get out. And just, there was nothing else we can do. And probably was the smartest choice to make. But I said, "Look, I'm going to keep going. And we haven't gone through this whole village yet. There still could be there might be still some people, children alive, I said, "You guys go get the 2 girls out." So He said, no, we'll go with you. I said, well, look, you can't be dragging these two young girls. I've seen enough already. So one team member, I said, get them out. We will meet up. So the two of us, you know, continued going through from one hut to another. And we kind of, 5 minutes later, I sat down. I was just so, not physically exhausted. I mean, it was probably about 106 degrees that day, but it wasn't even the heat. I was just so mentally exhausted, you know. And all of a sudden, these bullets started whizzing by my head and, you know, hitting the huts and things just flying off. And there were two guys coming with, you know, AK-47s drawn, just firing kind of randomly in the direction that, I mean, I just turned and returned fire. And they dropped, and as we got up and started going forward, there was a woman who was laying on her stomach. And everything was really, really, really quiet. All the gunfire, all this craziness, screaming, yelling had stopped. No more gunfire, nothing. And I thought I heard, I don't know if it was, I thought I heard an animal, or I'm not sure what I heard, you know. And I knelt down, and it was coming from the woman. And I'm like, wait a minute, the woman is not moving, she was dead. And as I moved the woman over slowly, she was cradling a baby. And the baby, even though blood from head to toe, and it was a girl, and so, but still breathing, yeah, amazingly. So, you know, I grabbed the child, and we met up with the other partner, and so it was an awful day. I've relived that day, and it's been, I'm amazed I can actually talk about it without falling apart, because there's been times that it's been impossible to talk about. And so we saved 3 lives, but the whole village was completely wiped out. So,
I mean, how much, I mean, it's amazing how much you're able to.
I don't call it a success, I don't call it anything, it's just.
But how much a person could take? I mean, I'm talking about you. I mean, these are, I don't know, I couldn't.
Yeah, I
couldn't do
believe
it.
me, I had to, you know, because I started having, you know, post-traumatic stress, you know, PTSD, so I was obviously seeing a therapist for a while who was just unbelievable in New York, and really kind of, and for myself, I didn't want to make it every week, got to go every week, no matter what. From just my own personality, I'm like, okay, I've got to also work through this myself, you know. But it was very important that I did go to see her, and she was extremely, extremely helpful. Yeah.
You brought a video with you.
Yeah. Yes.
What are we going to? We're going to share it with our audience.
Yes.
What is the video going to show us? I mean, what are we going to be looking?
This actually is brand new. I mean, it's just been done a few days ago, and it's entitled "Saving a Life," okay. But it talks about basically the things one has to prepare for, and also I talk about, you know, the certain situations, again, geopolitically in certain countries, about how the type of rescue that might be involved. So it's very informative.
So
yeah.
I think, you know.
It will speak for itself.
Okay, great. So.
And I shouldn't be laughing about it, but anyway, it's better than crying.
Let's share the video.
is somewhat of a misnomer throughout the world. Many people think that at-risk children is just something that's isolated to some third world country 10,000 miles away, but it's happening everywhere on every continent, and the numbers are staggering. 65+ million children. We're talking about everything from child soldiers, yes, the sex industry, agricultural slaves, refugees, orphans. There's such a wide gambit. We really have to ascertain, okay, what type of threat are these children under in order to go and rescue them. And so we want to be sure 99% that we're going to be able to get in, get the children out with little or no problem. It doesn't always work out though. Hello, my name is Vincent Lyn. I started a foundation, wecansavechildren.org. I initially started wecansavechildren.org to aid at-risk children, specifically on the African continent. And we've had some amazing successes in a very relatively short time. We've been able to aid over 1,000 children in Uganda, child orphans. We've been able to successfully buy sustainable agricultural land so that they have enough food forever. And eventually in a couple of seasons, they'll be able to actually sell some of this crop to local villages. So this is a great thing. So let's get back to a serious issue and what it takes to actually successfully pull off a mission. Personally, I believe at the top is always assessing the threat or threat assessment. And many times it depends again on the country one is going into. We could be talking, let's say, if I choose Ghana in West Africa. It's relatively stable, and I say relatively safe in terms of you're not going to come across any type of paramilitary conflict in any way. Slave masters are not going to have firearms. Jump to a neighboring country, Nigeria, where the geopolitical situation is completely different. Now we're talking about the slavery of child soldiers. And they steal, kidnap child soldiers in the thousands. This was a mission to rescue captive children. Local intel on the ground had made us aware that in a small hamlet there were anywhere between 20 to 30 children, some possibly child soldiers held captive. I was sure of our team, as I know I had the right guys watching my back. The four of us were feeling good, so we did what we are trained to do. We also knew that there were children to rescue, so time was of the essence. As we entered the hamlet, I started coming across more and more bodies. Most were mutilated figures laying in the dirt. Images that no human being should ever have to see. It was then I started to get nervous, and your mind starts to question, should I stay put? Should I go back? Should I continue on? So I continued on and stayed on point. I entered the hut. I saw a man holding a machete to a young girl's throat. Around him were bodies of children, boys and girls. I aimed my gun at him and made a gesture for him to drop his weapon and let the girl go. At the same time, tried to console the girl not to worry. Don't be scared, it will be all right. I put my weapon down and unslung my AK, also placing it on the ground. I said, please let the girl go. Whatever has happened here today, just let her go. Without hesitation or showing any emotion or remorse, he immediately proceeded to cut the young girl's throat. I disarmed him, and I held him by his throat, and I was yelling and repeating over and over again, why, just why? We all know the saying, we hope for the best and plan for the worst, but no, I changed that. It's you prepare for the worst. So you better have always a secondary B plan and C plan. Vaccinations are standard. You've got to have yellow fever. You're going to have hepatitis A, hepatitis B, gas mask, and it's new state of the art. And the CBRN filter that is used so that one doesn't die from sarin. What's my biggest fear? And I'm sure we've always been asked that question. Not being there to protect, or if I need to, the ones that I love the most. And what does haunt me is the ones that I could not protect. I can do nothing at all. You plan for the next mission. Of course, you have to analyze the last one, and could it have been any different? Could I have done anything different to change the outcome? You let it go, you have to let it go, so that I can focus on the next mission at hand. And we're prepping for a mission right now in Somalia. So I hope this has been educational, and of course, all these things that I do, that the foundation does, it's not free. And these missions cost money, time, and lots of effort. So I hope that you can help, donate in any way. Again, the foundation is wecansavechildren.org. Thank you.
Wow, that is unbelievably powerful. And again, I said it in the last episode that we did, it is definitely God's work. The question I have when I see all this is why is it left to one man to do one mission? Why isn't, why don't we have the support of our government? Why do we, again, these are unanswerable questions, but I mean, it's so important that you're doing it, but it seems like it's like one person against the world almost. I mean,
well, there are others.
Okay.
Yeah, there are others. Why aren't these governments doing anything about it?
Right.
Well, when you consider that we have 65 plus million, refugees, for example, on the planet.
Right.
If you consider there are some, probably an even bigger number than that, being trafficked. And again, as I talked about trafficking, from child soldiers to sex trafficking to, right, child slaves. I mean, this is huge numbers, the numbers of many countries. And it's not just happening in these third world countries. I mean, it's, the sex industry and sex trafficking in America is enormous, so it's happening here too. So there are people and there are organizations doing things, but certainly, we're just the icing on the cake. I mean, it's just...
Do you think this evil, is it about money? Is it about...
Oh, always. I've actually spoken and interviewed traffickers,
right,
and this was not easy to do, considering you're sitting across the table from someone who's done some heinous atrocities, and you're trying to at least try to understand in their own brain, or not asking them why, but the purpose, I mean, you could ask why and it really makes no difference why. Right. But in their own, speaking them just like we're speaking now, there's no change of getting hostile or emotion, plays into it. No, they're speaking very monotone, flat, no raise in blood pressure or eye dilation or anything like this. And for them, it's purely their business.
So it's not ideological or there's no ideology behind this.
I mean, well, child soldiers, obviously there is ideology there, but when we talk about child slaves, not at all. And just as an example, if most child slaves are bought and sold for $20 US, that is about average across the board. Well, if you can buy a child for $20 and my fishing net costs $200, which it probably will cost, and my net gets caught and I throw the child over to untangle the net, which they do, and the child who's 5 or 6, even a good diver with a snorkel on would have trouble untangling that net in the dirty water, so how can a child do it? So the child drowns. And for the price of his net, that means that would be how many children at $20 a piece?
That's it. There it is.
And to them, well, it's business. So my net is important. I need that net day in, day out, you know. The child, I can get another one.
So,
And
I mean,
and you're hearing this, and you literally want to reach across the table and strangle this person. But
again, it's never ending then, because
No.
people are always, this corruption is going to continue.
always, yes.
And the fight goes on forever, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, there are some amazing plans in certain countries that they want to abolish child slavery in 5 years. I mean, there are a couple of countries that are having some amazing successes. But worldwide, we've had this for 5,000 years. It's
But
not
how lucky are you, though? I mean, from the story that you told, which was gut-wrenching, I mean, and how lucky are the children that you're going to save in the future? I mean, those bullets that were whizzing by your head,
yes.
just an inch one way or the other, and we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Yeah, this is true. And actually, you know, in England we would say Boxing Day, so December 26th, I was in South Sudan, not on a rescue, going to check and just visit refugee camps. But obviously there's a genocide going on, there's a civil war going on, and I came across a situation. Child soldiers just started spraying the AK randomly. I was on the back of a scooter, the bullet ricocheted, hit the scooter driver, killed him instantly. So I'm holding on. He was killed. The bullet ricocheted off my helmet, not motorcycle helmet, bulletproof helmet,
right.
Kevlar. Yeah, and knocked me off from the force of it, knocked me on the floor. So if anything came close, if I wasn't wearing a helmet, we would not be having this conversation.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy that you're wearing a helmet.
Yeah, I was.
Because
and not a bicycle helmet, because that wouldn't have helped.
This has been one of the most moving, I can't call it an interview, your story is moving. I mean, I'm in awe of you, but I mean, like the audience, I was listening to you, you know. There were no questions that I had to ask. I mean, you basically, you lay your life out on a line for this. You know, your mission, I mean, you're so dedicated to your mission, and you're willing to put your life on the line. I mean, it's incredible. I'm really totally in awe of you.
Thank you.
And that's it. But unfortunately, there's just one thing left to say. That's a wrap. Good night, folks.